commence.
Standing by.
Can everybody mute who doesn't need to say anything as well, please?
We okay to go, Ben?
Yep.
Good morning, welcome to the meeting of the Personnel Subcommittee. The first item on the agenda is the confirmation of chairman. May I have a proposer to confirm the chairman as Councillor Roger Clitheroe for the year 2020 to 2021?
I would like to move that.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I would like to second that.
Thank you. Can you all indicate if you are for the motion? Just with a yes will do. Just vote.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone oppose the motion? Okay, I'll take that silence as the motion carried. So I confirm that Councillor Roger Clitheroe is the chairman. Over to you, Councillor Clitheroe, for item 2 onwards.
Thank you, Charlie, and thank you, members, for appointing me as your chairman for my final 9 months as a councillor. As you've no doubt been told, I know you can see me, but I can't see any of you. So I'm sure the officers will keep me on track. So if we come to item 2 on the agenda, the confirmation of the vice chairman for the ensuing year. If somebody would like to move that, please.
I'm happy to move that.
So you're moving Councillor Peacock. Yeah. Yeah. How about a seconder for that?
I'll second that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
That sounds as though it is carried. So welcome, Councillor Peacock as vice chairman.
Thank you very much, members.
All right. At this point, I will tell you that the chief executive wishes to bring an additional item to the meeting, which will make the last item under the under pink papers, and he will speak to that obviously later. Which then brings us forward to item 3. Any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. There have been no apologies received.
All right, thank you. Item 4. Minutes of the meeting held on the 24th of March that have been circulated. Has anybody any queries or questions on those minutes?
I move them as a true and accurate record of the meeting, Chairman.
I'll second that, Chairman.
Good, thank you. And I take that as read then. Right, that then brings us to item 5 on the agenda, which is any declarations of interest. I take the silence as meaning there aren't any. Item 6, any questions from members?
There were no questions received, Chairman.
Good, thank you. Item 7, personnel scheme, that again paper has been circulated on this particular matter. Who's dealing with it?
I am, Chair. Stella Jinks, HR Manager.
Pardon?
Stella Jinks, HR Shared Service Manager.
Right.
I'll be taking the paper.
Yep, fine. If you want to take us through it and, you know, bring out any salient points, that will be useful.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, certainly. The report is basically asking for your consideration of a change to the Council's constitution, and that relates to the officer scheme of delegation, but it's only around minor variations to changes to hours or sort of an increase in hours or a decrease in hours. So we're only looking at minor variations that we're seeking some approval for around the change. We resolved at a meeting in January that a paper on this nature would be brought to you for your consideration, and hence why it's at the table today. Now, what we're looking to do is to seek to bring in, because the Constitution is currently silent in this area, we're seeking to bring in an update that will provide delegated powers to your Chief Executive, and that will enable him to approve any sort of minor variations that are within budget and within establishment. So there'll be no changes to the existing establishment arrangements, and there'll be no changes or impact on a budgetary, as in an increase to budget. If a variation was to exceed establishment, or the variation had a budgetary implication, then that would come back to the committee as normal for consideration. So the larger scale changes would still come back to committee, and they would need your consideration before going ahead with. But minor variations where somebody is looking to be flexible around their working day or their working hours, and you have a lot of flexible working policies, you're very proactive in that area. And where somebody wants to take advantage of that, it's just enabling the Chief Exec to give that consideration, and if it's within those tolerances, to enable him to make those decisions, so that we can make those changes quite quickly for employees, in order to maintain those policies in their true spirit. So really what I'm looking for today is approval to consider this minor variation, and then I do believe that the policy or the proposal then needs to go to your Policy and Resources Committee after this committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the officer on that paper? I think it's fairly self-explanatory. The salient points are at 2.1. Proposing to delegated powers to the Chief Executive, and members will note that under 3.2, really repeating what the officer has said about minor changes, and it doesn't at this stage have any budget provision. If it does, then it would obviously require committee approval. Has any member any questions?
Yeah,
Yes, Chair, I have.
I have too.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Just waiting
Yes,
for the pause
indeed.
and you let me speak, so thank you for that. I actually think this recommendation needs to be more specific. I don't think specific enough at the moment. I understand the principle in relation to our flexible working hours. I think we've got some of the best in the county in relation to that and our policies, and I certainly understand about flexible hours and the things you've talked about, but the delegation wording at the moment is just not clear enough on that. I mean, what is minor, what is major? That's not helpful enough to me, to be honest. It just, in my view, just does need tightening up a bit, so we're actually specific what we're talking about, and it doesn't do that at the moment. It leaves it wide open. And I don't want to get into the situation when we're asking questions about what's major and minor, and obviously this committee does a lot more than deal with stuff on a financial basis. So from my point of view, personnel sub is a lot more than just dealing with stuff within that's within financial budgets and team budgets. And of course we have a strategic input as well into the direction of the council, and this paper doesn't do that either, because it may be a member has left. I mean, I'm picking up on 2.3. It's not down to the Chief Exec to necessarily sort out the relevant needs of the organisation. That might be a conversation that needs to happen with personnel sub, because it may be a strategic saying, well, if we're in budget, you could read that change could be made without coming back to personnel sub, which is not, to be honest, how I like to do things as a council. So in my view, Chairman, it needs tightening up quite a bit more before it goes to personnel policy and resources, I should say.
Right. So what are you suggesting, Councillor North, that we send this paper back for it to be tied up a bit stronger than it is at the moment, yeah?
Oh, I hate deferments, Chairman, you know that.
Well,
I was hoping the great and the good would come up with a bit of a wording that was more specific about what minor means in relation to flexible staffing hours, or what have you, actually specific, and we could do that in this meeting, because I do not like deferring things, and obviously it'd be helpful if we could go straight to policy and resources, and I don't think we've got another meeting between now and then.
I agree. Well, could we see what the relevant officer or officers have to say on the points you've made, and if they can't satisfy the members at this point, we could then probably send this to Policy and Resources, which should give them time to work on it.
Well, you've got
So,
3 other members waiting to speak, Chairman, so there may be
right,
movement to stay on this.
let's see what they
I'll
have
have
to
to,
say.
I'll have to come up with a form of words once the other members have spoken, Chair.
You
Right,
have Councillor Peacock, followed by Councillor Boto,
right,
Thank you.
followed by Councillor Jenny.
right.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Yes, I agree with Councillor North. It is still a bit loose, and I think that we also need a report at some point as to when these amendments are made, so that members are kept fully up to date with what is happening as well. But I would welcome some tightening up on limits and how it's going to move forward. Thank you.
Good, good.
You have Councillor Boto next.
Yep.
Oh, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I take Councillor North's point in terms of it needing tightening up. However, he made the comment regarding it being more than just a financial issue. It had other implications other than financial. And whilst I'm quite happy to see some tightening up, I'm wondering how you can measure that. You can measure a financial impact, obviously, in terms of whether it's worth more or less than a certain sum of money. I'm not sure how you measure the other aspects of it. So, thank you.
You have Councillor Jenny next.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, it's paragraph 8.2 that I have difficulty with. This describes the delegated powers in a negative way. I think if we were to be a bit more proactive with the words in 8.2, we would get over most of the problems that we're all sort of flagging up.
Right, yep.
There are no more hands raised at this point, Chairman.
Right. Well, what are the points the officers are going to make?
The
then?
Chief
Yeah,
Executive has raised his hand.
Yeah, I'll come back on this if I may, Chair. I think if I just take everybody back to the meeting we had on the 20th of January, which is where we agreed to bring this forward. And there was a situation where somebody who was on, I think it was about 18 hours a week, wanted to go on to 22 hours a week. And that's the kind of change that we're talking about here, just to remind everybody. So I think Councillor North's concerns about, the role of personnel subcommittee and it needing to deal with strategic issues and so on, we're not proposing any kind of change to any of that at all. So I think I've got 2 suggested ways forward here. One is by way of changing the words in the recommendation to talk about the specific examples that are used in the report. So let me just refer everybody to 3.2. So I would say that the delegation to me would be where a variation does not create a proposed increase to the budget and does not have the potential to trigger a redundancy and does not result in any increase to or change to the establishment. And the alternative would be to say we could just forget about it altogether, because the whole purpose of bringing this to the committee was to avoid the committee members having to deal with issues that are trivial and relate to one individual's employment terms for a matter of a few hours a week. So if members aren't particularly minded to allow any sort of delegation, I'm perfectly happy to leave things as they are. It just means that you'll have reports on pretty trivial items coming to personnel subcommittee in the future. But as I say, if you are minded to do what you said you want to do in January, then I would just suggest we use the turn around the wording in 3.2 and put that into the resolution and deal with it that way.
Councillor North, you want to speak?
Yeah.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. As you all know, I was very supportive in my opening comments because I do think we have very good work-life balance policies and so forth. And it's absolutely right that we, in my view, that we don't need to come back if someone's just wants to change their hours and minor. But my point is it does not specify what is minor and what isn't. And I just, as I said right at the beginning, Chairman, that I'm quite happy, if everybody else is happy, that we just be more specific in the recommendations and really tighten it up, because it is just too loose at the moment. It's not about willingness to speed things up and bring things to the committee that are truthful as the words have been used. It's actually making sure that we, get things right and at the right level. And at the moment, you know, there's no specifics about what minor is in the actual recommendation. And if it's a constitutional change, then we need to make sure the constitution is specific about what we're agreeing here, and it isn't. This recommendation does not do that for the constitution. So if the chief executive has made that suggestion, they're using those words, then maybe if everybody's happy that we insert those into the recommendation, because I certainly don't want to defer it. I don't think we're at that kind of level about it. We just need a bit more firming up as people are supported in relation to the recommendation, Chairman.
Yeah.
Right. Councillor North, are you happy with that wording that the Chief Executive suggested?
Yes, Chairman, it's better than the current recommendation as it is at the moment, yes.
I'm happy with that as well, so.
Right, and anybody else?
There's no hands raised.
No,
Hands raised, Chairman.
That's
That's
good job.
Right, so subject to that then, do you agree with the recommendation, and as I say, subject to that tightening up, that delegated power be given to the Chief Executive to authorise minor variations for the establishment with existing budget provisions? And do you want them reported to personnel subcommittee? No, I'm not talking about the committee meeting. I'm talking to whenever the next meeting is.
Chairman, I agree with what Councillor Peacock said earlier on after supporting my comments, that I think it would be useful if we had some kind of update within the usual bounds, whether it's on pink or whatever, just some kind of update periodically in relation to these.
Yeah.
So I think you've covered it, Chairman, to be honest, in relation to the altered recommendation the Chief Executive put forward. Hopefully someone noted it and we confirm that up.
Good. Right, is everybody else there happy with that now?
Yep.
All right.
In that case, subject to that, then do you approve of that recommendation?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right.
Aye.
Right, fine, good. So now, can we move to the exclusion of the public and press to deal with the two items on the agenda and the extra item that the Chief Executive wishes to bring at the end of that?
I would move that, Chairman.
Would like to move that?
I'd move that.
Seconded.
Yep.
Is that agreed?
Yes.
In that case, then we move to the first pink pages item, which has been circulated. That's agenda item 8, Head of Customer and Community Service. Who's dealing with this one?
Chairman, we're still live, to be honest, at the moment.
Sorry?
Just
We're
hold a
still
minute,
live.
Richard. Roger.
Sorry?
Just hold on a minute, Roger, because we haven't. If there's any public, we haven't got them fully removed from the meeting.
Ah, right.
Yeah, it takes a few moments, Mr. Chairman.
Right.
Can all members mute their microphones again? Because I think we're all still live as well after the last vote.